My original intent for making this video is to show you guys the new EcoFlow Alternator charger and how it's going to help me solve the challenge I have with slow charging on my portable power stations from EcoFlow. While shooting this video, I didn't really even consider the implications of a couple other features that this has, and just how this is going to change the game for dual battery systems, but as well making sure you're never left stranded out in the bush with a dead battery in your vehicle. So let's go back to the original start. So today, I think we're gonna be able to solve one of the longest issues that I've had with portable power stations. Before we get to the solution, let me talk to you about the problem. In front of me here, I have the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. It has about 2,000 watt hours of capacity and a very large inverter in it. It's opened up a whole new world of things that I can bring out camping with me that I can run off 110 AC power, household style power. The barrier that I've had with going and adding an expansion battery is charge times. You can't charge this off your inverter in your Jeep because it's a modified sine wave, not a pure sine wave inverter. You can only charge this so quickly off of 12 volt, so that gives you about 100 watts of charging. This is not limited just to EcoFlow. Everybody's coming out with larger and larger capacity battery systems, and charging them quickly is a challenge. EcoFlow has recognized that. This is called the EcoFlow Alternator charger. World's first 3-in-1 fast car charging solution. It's supposed to be 8 times faster than 12 volt car charging. We'll unbox this, I'll show you what's in it, and then we'll test it on a couple other EcoFlows. Now, full disclosure guys, EcoFlow is a partner and sponsor of the channel. I've been working with them for several years, and this is a sponsored video by EcoFlow. However, with all videos on the channel, nobody gets a say about what goes in the video. But their support helps me make more content for you guys. So check out some of the links down in the description below, as well as some of the discount codes with the products you see in today's video. And thank you, EcoFlow, for helping me make more videos for you guys. Now, this is kind of neat because nobody else has come up with a solution for charging off your vehicle quickly. Everybody's been focused on solar panels, and unless you get into some really complex red arc system, there isn't really a way to have a high amount of capacity and batteries in your vehicle and then be able to recover them and charge them quickly. Here we have the alternator charger. But we've got a bunch of connectors on here. This I don't even think is a connector. Wi-Fi, that's a wireless, some wireless. Now EcoFlow does have a great app for their system, so let's get rid of this, we don't need that. And I use it all the time to monitor and manage the charging of my Delta 2 in my Jeep. They've got some mounting holes. Maybe there's a bracket actually in here. Let's unbox this before we make too many assumptions. This is pretty heavy. This is like, it was like a MacBook almost. There's some of this junk. We don't know this crap. More packaging, more packaging. Oh, yes, look at that. Oh, that's cool. There's a mounting bracket, some screws. So I guess you could use this in more than just your Jeep, but if you had an RV or a trailer or something like that, and you were running everything off of EcoFlow devices, then now you have a great way to charge those while you're out driving. Nothing else in here. Deal with that later. And then we've got a very heavy cable spool in here. Let's rip this out. Holy crap. This is probably worth its weight in copper alone. We've got some EcoFlow connectors here on the side. Now my understanding is we're going to be able to plug this into one of the expansion ports on our Delta 2 and be able to charge it directly into that. We've got another cable here. This looks very similar to the cables that go into the side of the expansion ports on the EcoFlow. So we got a monster cable here. So we got one end that I'm gonna guess goes into, and then we've got a couple just raw ends here wrapped up in silicone. No, right there. They've got connectors on them. Right, and then we've got a fuse block here. So look at that, guys. That is 125 amp fuse. I don't know what gauge wire this is. Let's see if it says on this. This is 6 gauge wire. So this is all 6 gauge wire. Before I measure the cables and we do some testing, let me explain to you what the 3-in-1 means on the box, because we said 3-in-1. Well, so first of all, it's an EcoFlow battery charger. It's gonna charge our EcoFlow batteries. So we'll test that. The way this is set up, and this is what I want to really test, is that it will only charge off your battery, which is why they call it the alternator charger, when the vehicle's running. Now the second thing this can do, which I didn't actually know until I looked at the manual. Yes, I do read manuals sometimes. You can charge your vehicle's battery off of your EcoFlow. Yeah, how cool is that? So if you leave your lights on and your battery's dead in the morning, you can fire up the app and flip on reverse charging mode. And as long as you didn't use all the juice in your EcoFlow unit as well, you can charge up your vehicle's battery and then you can drive your vehicle the next day. Or the third thing it can do is what they call maintaining. And so that is going to be something very useful for me because I have some slight parasitic power draws on my Jeep that if my Jeep sits for about 2 weeks, the battery dies. And so I'm constantly having to either put a trickle charger on my Jeep, and when I don't put a trickle charger on my Jeep, I have to get my battery charger out and jumpstart it. This has a maintainer mode, or what I would call a trickle charge mode. I can just leave the trickle charge or maintainer mode on this and keep my battery topped up on my vehicle. I knew I shouldn't have put all this crap over here. Let's get the trusty Lufkin out. 16 feet, 9 inches. And I had just plugged this into this one port here. Is it a locking port? I think it is. Okay, directions say shove this in here. Oh, there we go. Do not lose this, or you may never get this charging cable detached from the alternator charger. Hopefully EcoFlow sells these separately, or when you lose them. All right, so now that we've measured the cables, I went on this thing called the internet and found this awesome chart that tells you how long your wires can be and the gauge they need to be for the amount of amperage that you're drawing through it. This chart is from Blue Sea, because if I look at this chart, it says for non-critical loads, 10% voltage drop, which this isn't a critical load. We can go all the way to 30 feet with 6 gauge wire and 70 amps. That fuse is at 120 amps. So why aren't we looking at that? Well, as I mentioned before, I looked at the manual to see what the draw is on the system. It says in charge mode, which is going to be our biggest draw, the maximum input is 76 amps. So we're right within spec according to a third party. For battery maintenance mode, it's like 3 amps, and reverse charge mode, it's going to be sending 21 amps back into the battery. A couple other fancy things. This weighs 2.2 kilograms in case you're worried about how much weight your overloader overlanding rig weighs. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and operating temperature between -20 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius. It has a wider operating range than I do. All right, enough boring book crap. Let's hook this up and see what it does. But before we do, guys, quick reminder, if you want to see more reviews like this crazy inflatable tent behind me, and there's some new products hiding behind that, hit that subscribe button because I upload videos all the time, and if you're enjoying this one, you'll probably enjoy some of the other ones. So installing this should be pretty straightforward. It's a matter of just hooking it up to your battery. I think the hardest part of the installation is really going to be routing that cable to wherever you're going to mount the alternator charger. Now, with any battery related installation, you should fully disconnect your battery, but as a former boss of mine used to say, do as I say, not as I do. So, and this is just going to be a temporary installation so we can check this out and see how it functions. Okay, the next step should be taking this now live wire and plugging it into here. And if we did this right, hopefully nothing explodes. Plug it in, no sparks. Should be good. Let's get this added to the app so we can see what's going on. So EcoFlow's app is really great. You just hit add new device and it scans around and looks for things and then adds them. Here it is, alternator charger, boom. Now, one thing to note that I saw a little error here at first. It said couldn't talk to my EcoFlow unit. Make sure you've updated all your firmware, which you can do by logging into the EcoFlow app and connecting to each of your devices, and get everything up to the latest version, and that will resolve any issues on the screen here. I've got the alternator charger hooked up to my Delta 2 at the moment. We're gonna hook it up to the Delta 2 Max in the Jeep once we play with the app for a minute. Looking through the app, looks like we have some settings here at the bottom for charge, reverse charge, and battery maintenance. We can tell it to start working, but I want to go through and look at some of the options first. Looks like we're communicating right here with the battery and showing us how much charge our EcoFlow has. So it's not just a battery connection, there's actually some intelligence going on there. But in the top right corner, there's a little gear to go in and make some settings. So what do we have in here? We have output power. Looks like we can adjust the maximum output power now. Now it has a starting voltage in here. This is 11 volts it's set to. Set the starting voltage to match the car engine voltage. 12 volts would be what the battery has, and 13 volts is when the alternator kicks on. Now the thing with a lot of vehicles is that they have smart alternator. The smart alternator goes on and off as needed, and so it's not always on. But if it needs 13 volts to kick on, then this is not going to be so automatic. We've got some firmware updates. I'm going to update the firmware here. Oh yeah, we got a big firmware and update version. So firmware has been updated to version 3. Now I was just thinking a little bit more about the starting voltage while I was doing that. And we'll test this. I wonder if I set this to 12 volts, it will enable the alternator charger to come on whether or not the alternator is on and draw the battery down. And then if the battery gets below 12 volts, it should, in theory, stop. And the battery should be okay at like 11 volts to still start your vehicle. So let's see if there's anything else added in here. We've just got specifications. So this is gonna give you kind of all your information that we saw in the manual. And back to the main screen, we just have some fancy new graphics here. Oh, start working is automatically enabled. So it looks like it's pulling from the engine right now into the EcoFlow. And my EcoFlow shows it's charging at 300 watts on the front of the EcoFlow. So my vehicle's not running. If I go in here and set this to 13 volts, will that stop? Yes, it does. It says, look at that, right at the top, car battery port under voltage. Now I'm gonna go start my Jeep and see if that changes. All right, as you can probably hear in the background of the diesel, Jeep is going now. So the engine voltage right here is now 14 volts, and that is now automatically starting up again and charging the Delta 2. I'm curious now if the smart alternator will eventually kick off, and then now this is not going to drain the battery down low enough to kick the smart alternator back on, and whether or not we'll see intermittent charging. So I'm gonna leave this at 13 volts. I'm gonna see if the smart alternator stays on the whole time. And if it does kick off, I'm going to set this to 12 volts. Then I'm gonna turn the vehicle off and see if this automatically turns off as soon as this drops below 12 volts. And then make sure I can start my Jeep again. But you can see now that you can hear the Jeep is still running, but it says car battery port under voltage. So the smart alternator has turned off and now it's not charging. So I'm going to set this to a different voltage. We're going to take this and change this to 12 volts and see if this starts charging again, because the battery should be at 12 volts. We'll give it a second. It recognized that we're at 12 volts. And it's gonna spin back up and charge. And that's gonna force the smart alternator to turn back on and charge the vehicle, because once it sees the battery getting low, it's going to have to charge it back up again. The next test I will complete is going to be turning the vehicle off, leaving that at 12 volts, and I wanna make sure it kicks off when the battery gets below 12 volts and it doesn't keep going, because I don't want it to kill my battery. Okay, so the vehicle's been off for a little while. Still waiting for it to drop below 11 volts. I really wish that EcoFlow would show us maybe a decimal place or two so we could see you know, a little bit more precisely the voltage of the engine's battery or the vehicle's battery. It shows 12 volts here, but what I am noticing is that the charging wattage that's going into the Delta 2 right now is slowly trickling down. So I wonder if there's some system built into the alternator charger that sees as the voltage starts getting too low or too close to its cutoff, that it reduces the charging rate, because this has been just slowly ticking down and ticking down. But I had a thought while I was sitting here, and this kind of goes back to the original opener of the video. With these other modes that the alternator charger has, this fulfills all of what you would originally be doing with a dual battery system, right? Because a dual battery system, the whole point is to have more capacity, to have a short, like a offline battery that doesn't affect your starter battery, which is basically what an EcoFlow does. But also, in the case of you accidentally drain your main battery, you can use your secondary battery with a dual battery system to start your vehicle. With this alternator charger, we have these other modes now. We can reverse charge our main vehicle battery. So if we accidentally kill our battery when we're out in the middle of nowhere, we just hit the reverse charge button and start charging it up. Now, the battery maintenance option is great for when you're at home. That kind of replaces the whole need for a trickle charger if you have a lot of parasitic power loss in your vehicle, because you have 18 million things hooked up to it all the time and they all draw a few milliamps each and eventually draw your battery down. That's even common without having a bunch of stuff hooked up to your vehicles. And so even when I'm at home, I have to either start my Jeep every about 2 weeks or keep a trickle charger added onto it. But really what this is now is this is a fast charging system for your EcoFlow. It's a dual battery system because you don't ever have to worry about killing your main vehicle battery and being stranded because you reverse charge it. You have an isolated battery from your vehicle battery that you're running pretty much anything off of when your vehicle's off. So that's basically like a dual battery system anyways. And then on top of that, you can maintain your vehicle's battery when it's parked and sitting at home. So the next time you go and use it, it's not completely dead. And then on top of all of that, you don't have to mess around with your engine bay. You don't have to worry about voiding your warranty. You don't have to worry about finding a company that made a dual battery system. And when you go buy a new vehicle, you can just take this right out because it's basically as simple as hooking up a winch. It's a positive and negative that you hook up to your battery terminal. The hardest part is finding a route to route the wire to where you're gonna have your EcoFlow and your alternator charger in your vehicle. That, to me, is a game changer. Now, it does come at a cost. This is not going to be as cheap as a dual battery system for a lot of vehicles, but I think the trade-off is going to be worth it. Okay, I've been sitting here watching this for about 2 hours now. It's just slowly trickling down. It's still charging, but it's charging at 24 watts. Just down to 23 watts. So the voltage gets lower, it gets slower and slower. And I'll insert a clip of how it went, leaving this on at 12 volts and seeing if it shuts off at 11 volts. So here's that clip right now. All right, so the alternator charger I just left going all night. It eventually stopped, but it actually has a little error in the app. It still shows 12 volts. So let's go up, let's go ahead and see if the Jeep still starts, just leaving the alternator charger as on. The lock's unlocked, that's a good sign. And then we'll see if it starts charging back up automatically again. Jeep still got juice. That's good. So let's check the alternator charger. All right, so that's good. Alternator charger behind me kicked back on. The green light came on right away after starting it up. And we seem to be hovering around 650 watts of charging. Jumped up to 700 watts right at the start there. I emailed EcoFlow last night, which is going to throw this whole time continuum of this video off because we're going to skip back to yesterday. And they said they were going to get back to me on why I was only seeing 600 watts of charging. They asked if there was anything else using load on the alternator or anything like that, but there isn't. This is basically just, there's nothing on right now. The Jeep is just idling. So if I get some updates, I will post them in the comments below. But for now, let's get back to the rest of the video. Well, I wanted to see if this would charge the battery on my WAVE 2. And if you're unfamiliar with what the WAVE 2 is, this is EcoFlow's portable HVAC system. I say HVAC because it heats as well as it has an air conditioner. So this has a heat pump system in it, does a bunch of science things. But this is not compatible with the batteries. I double checked on EcoFlow's website, and that is the case according to their documentation. But what is nice, two things that are nice. You can run your Wave 2 off of your Delta or Delta 2 or Delta 2 Max, because you can plug into the AC port, which means you can just plug it into the inverter and keep it running. And now with the alternator charger, you can charge those a lot faster. EcoFlow mentioned to me that they're putting these on sale right now. So it's coming into spring and summer. So they do have some discounts going on. And just like the alternator charger, those will be in the description below. If you want to use my coupon code, that helps me out. I do get some commissions, and it goes towards making content for you guys and making more videos and going on trips and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate it. Use the coupon codes, save some money, and help me make more videos. I've got the alternator charger hooked up, probably not in the recommended fashion. This is just hanging out my door at the moment. But I've got it plugged into the Delta 2 Max, which currently sits at 19% battery, and then it has the expansion battery. So there's 4,000 watt hours of battery capacity in here. Now the alternator charger is showing that this is charging at 542 watts. It is showing that the battery is at 34 degrees Celsius. It's been sitting in my Jeep in the sun. It's pretty warm today. I don't know if that temperature has anything to do with it. The reason why I'm not sure if the temperature has anything to do with it is because when I turn on my other charging system that can charge this in conjunction with the alternator charger, I'm seeing 1.1 kilowatts or 1,100 watts of chargings. I can use those at the same time, so this is actually a third thing that I can charge with. But I was really hoping to just get 800 watts off the alternator charger. All right, because we've got to try everything out, let's take a look at these last couple of modes here. Reverse charge. Are you sure you want to confirm modes? Yes. So it's pushing 850 watts back into the vehicle's battery. I don't know how much charging that battery needs because we just turned off the vehicle. Probably got some target voltage it wants to hit before it thinks it's full. And we moved over to battery maintenance mode, and that's basically the trickle charger, which keeps your battery maintained if you have your vehicle sitting for a long period of time. So it looks like it's outputting 100 watts to the vehicle's battery from the EcoFlow through the alternator charger. But I'm gonna suspect that just with reverse charging, that it's probably gonna cut off when the battery hits a certain voltage. The battery's not gonna take any more into it. If you guys want to see like a long-term review on the alternator charger, make sure you're subscribed, because I am eventually going to get this installed in one of my Jeeps, because I think this is super useful all around for overland camping rig. If you have any questions about the alternator charger, leave them down in the description below. It's still pretty new, but I will do my best to answer them for you, and I will be contacting EcoFlow and letting them know some of my experience in my initial testing and trying this out. I'm sure they'll want to hear my feedback, and I'll let you know if there's any firmware coming. My name's Casey, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.